In today's episode of our Flourish in Friendship series, we are going to be looking at the countercultural way that Jesus models true friendship to us. And one thing that is important for us as we consider what Jesus is modeling to us is, how has Jesus shown me that he is my friend? The Word of God tells us that Jesus is not only our Savior, our Shepherd, our Healer, but He is also our friend. Episode 1 of this Flourish to Friendship series, Marnie Collier and I sat down and talked about the longevity of friendships. We talked about the different seasons that our friendship has gone through, over 20 plus years of friendships through ups and downs and ins and outs. And I asked Marnie some more challenging questions towards the end of our time together. And over the course of each and every one of the episodes in this Flourish to Friendship series, Marnie and I sit down and have a heart to heart about a question that I ask her to explore with me. Today, Marnie, I know you have a beautiful, intimate relationship with Jesus. What is a way that he has shown you true friendship?
One of the most beautiful things that Jesus has done to show me friendship has been to help me to begin to recognize that there was never one single moment of my entire life that he has not been there for me. Jesus has been hands down the most incredible friend that I have ever had. And one of the things that he has done for me that has changed my whole life is begun to reveal to me that he never left me ever. And a very wise counselor invited me to ask Jesus for a picture of my heart. And he showed me a meat locker of frozen meat packages. And I thought, what are we doing here? So much pain in my life had been frozen solid, packed away behind a locked door, and never to be looked at again. And Jesus asked me, he said, those are frozen packages of pain.
Mm.
Can I have your permission to begin to defrost them? And I said yes. And it led me into a journey where he would begin to defrost something painful. And there had been a lot of it, and bring it back to where I could remember it and feel it. And then he taught me to realize that he was there to help me get into a space where I could realize he was there. And he began to show me time after time, I love you. I was right here. I have never left you. I am for you. I will hold you. You can count on me. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I fell in love with Jesus. I had been in church all of my life from the time I was a little girl, but I had never known Jesus like that. And that began to transform me on the inside because love met me right
Mm.
where I felt so lost and so alone and so in pain. So Jesus has been a magnificent friend. And if anybody listening hasn't gotten a chance to know him yet as a friend, I just want to highly recommend him as a
Mm.
friend.
Mm.
The best.
I remember a season when I felt so unseen in friendship. I was constantly showing up, initiating, inviting, creating opportunities for connection, and people were thrilled to participate, but no one was inviting me back. No one asked me to lunch or dinner. I was a planner, not the pursued. And I'll be honest, I was hurt. And if I'm being really honest, I became a little bitter. Did you know that nearly 1 in 3 women in the US say they feel lonely most of the time? Friendship is one of the top areas where women experience disappointment and loss. These are epidemic proportions, and if you haven't already, go back and listen to episode 1 of our Flourish in Friendship series for a deep dive into the social and spiritual impact of this loneliness epidemic. Maybe you're the marvelous mom working hard to juggle all the hats. You're showing up at work, home, church, but when it comes to friendship, there's a gap. You long for depth, but you're tired. You want to invest, but your calendar is full. You want to be known, but part of you wonders if it's too late to find your people. You'll go to the party, sure, you'll enjoy the outing, but you still feel that ache for intimacy, the soul level connection. Well, hold on to all those mom hats you wear, because this episode will offer a mindset shift around how Jesus defines friendship. It will help you reflect on who you're becoming and invite you to start practicing friendship that looks more like Jesus. Hey friends, I'm Misty, your host here at Mom to Mom Mentoring. I'm a certified transformational life and leadership coach, a Grammy to 6 amazing grandkids, a mama to a crew of incredible adults, and a woman who believes that kingdom-minded moms like you can live powerfully, lead with purpose, and love with passion. I started this podcast because I know firsthand how hard it is to keep shining in the middle of real life. Each week, you'll find faith-filled encouragement, practical tools, and real-life stories to help you reconnect with your God-given identity and cultivate friendships that matter. Today, we're digging deep, not into who your friends are, we'll get to that, but into what kind of friend Jesus modeled and how you can follow his lead. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs a little mentoring in her earbuds. Okay, grab your coffee, reheat it for the 3rd, maybe 4th time, throw up your mom bun, and let's dive in. Let's start by calling out the tension. Culture tells us that friendship is about fun, compatibility, and convenience. But biblical friendship? It's rooted in covenant, in love, in sacrifice. John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." Now, I know that feels impossible. You're already stretched so thin. You're running kids around, working your business, investing in your marriage, and trying to show up for your community and church groups. So, what does laying your life down look like in this season? Remember my friend Danica? I introduced her to you all in episode 51, where we had a real talk about the challenges of mother-adult-daughter relationships. Our friendship has been growing over the last year. I value Danica and I trust her as a friend. She's a truth teller. She's a faithful woman, and she's just fun to be with. These are all values that I hold dear. She's a very busy mom who shares the commitment to growing in intimacy in our friendship. Recently, she drove 25 minutes just to connect and spend an hour with me. Now, it's summer and she has kids at home, so we decided to meet in the park so the kids could play. We may not have had the deep dive into conversations that we share over a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, but we made it work. It wasn't perfect, but it was intentional. Friendship took effort, and it took both of us. All relationships worth pursuing take 2. Another thing that the Word of God points out about friendship is from Proverbs 17:17. We're told a friend loves at all times. That all times love, in a world where feeling good is such a priority, it's hard to persevere in friendship. and to know when we need to and when it's time to let go. But the friend who loves even when we aren't loving back, that's a reflection of God's love. And Mama, you can't give that kind of love until you've received it from Him. Recently, I had a friend who had a parent pass away suddenly. During the few weeks leading up to the actual death and after the death, I texted this friend daily, just checking in, letting her know that I was praying for her. We finally had a morning to sit while she shared about her relationship and the process she was going through of the grief. As we were saying goodbye, she apologized for not asking about me. If I were self seeking in this friendship, I would walk away when friendship isn't serving me or making me feel seen and loved. But that's not what Christ models, is it? Nor what He asks of us. And it wasn't what I was asking of my good friend. I once heard someone say, He's never saying, let me come in because you're fun. He comes in because you're weary, you're hurting, and you feel alone. That's what Jesus does. And that's what you're called to do. And that's what you're called to reflect. But it starts by letting Him be that for you. Have you encountered Jesus as your friend? Let's talk about Jesus and what He models to us regarding friendship. He models a friendship that is countercultural. And if we believe He is who He says He is, then we have to look no further than the perfect friend to understand what our heart is longing for in friendship. He's sacrificial, a truth teller, forgiving, present, persistent, honest. He doesn't ghost us when we mess up or even when we reject Him. He always sees us, always listens, is with us in our sorrow and in our joy. Let me ask you a question. Which one of these qualities do you most reflect in friendship? And which one is God inviting you to grow in? And how can you grow? Let me share a quick story. Philippians 2, 3 through 5, Paul tells us, do nothing from selfishness, but regard others as more important than yourself. This is something Jesus modeled in friendship. He was not self-seeking, just the opposite. He always put our needs above His own, and that's what sent Him to the cross. And He did so with joy. Wow. This passage is one of those life verses for my husband. He keeps it before him. He always has. It's something he prays that he will have the grace to live out. He spent years meditating on this truth, and it's shaped him. He models this with his family. Others see him live this out, and others desire friendship with him because he's that kind of man. So, you want to know how to grow in developing biblical character traits of a good friend? Well, we become what we behold. So, friend, if you long for soul level friendship, begin by looking at Jesus. Behold Him. Study how He loves and let His Spirit shape you. Beloved, you are not called to be perfect, but you are called to become more like Jesus. And Jesus didn't say, go find the perfect friend. He said, love one another as I have loved you. And in Luke 6:31, He instructs us to treat others the same way you want them to treat you. Are you that kind of friend that you're longing to find? J.R.R. Tolkien writes this about friends in The Fellowship of the Ring. You can trust us to stick to you through thick and thin, to the bitter end, and you can trust us to keep any secret of yours closer than you keep it yourself. But you cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends. Whew. If this has stirred something in you, if you're realizing you've been more focused on getting a good friend than becoming one, I want you to know there's no shame, only an invitation. We grow in friendship the same way we grow in faith, by gazing at Jesus and letting His Spirit shape us. If you're wrestling with a past friendship, hurt, or longing to rebuild meaningful relationships but don't know where to start, just book a free clarity call with me. Just visit momtoMommentoring.com/call. You don't have to navigate this alone. Here's one thing I want you to take away from this episode. The friend that you long for, He's already there. He already exists. His name is Jesus. And the friend you are becoming can be shaped by His love and His example. You don't have to wait for the perfect friend to show up. You can become the friend your heart desires. And in doing so, you will begin to attract, deepen, and cultivate the kind of soul level friendships that actually last. You are not behind, you're not forgotten, and you are not alone. On friendship, I wanted to share something special with you. As I've been going through old notes, old writings on friendship, I came across a blog. This was pre-podcast days for me, that I wrote probably 7, 8 years ago. And it was on loneliness. And so much of what I share in that blog is relevant to my growth in the area of friendship over these last years. I am going to read this blog to you. I've reposted it and will link to it in my show notes, because at the end is a very powerful prayer that's based on scripture that highlights attributes of God and who He is and what He says about friendship. So I'm going to read this, and I invite you to join me in the prayer at the end of this. It's called A Prayer for Loneliness. It was written for the holidays, but it can relate to any season of loneliness that you might find yourself in. No man is an island, yet in the festivities of the holidays, all good cheer and Christmas greetings, many of us feel like an isolated, lonely island. We're created for community, to be a part of family. From the beginning, God said, "It is not good for man to be alone." Then why is the reality of loneliness reaching epidemic proportions? I believe, and scientists agree, that loneliness is something that every human experiences. We're not alone in our loneliness. However, like a hunger pain helps you realize that your body is missing something, loneliness is a clue that you are missing something that is necessary for life: human interaction, relationship with God, and relationship with others. From the dawn of creation, God has had a desire for His children to be a part of His family, and His desire is to use loneliness to draw us to Him. A few years ago, as my youngest was transitioning out of the home, I became aware of intense loneliness. My days would no longer be filled with wondering how he was doing, making sure he got to work on time, waking him up, or if he had goals he was pursuing. I would no longer have daily interaction with him just to touch base, see if he'd eaten. My full-time role as a mother was suddenly drawing to an end, and I became increasingly aware of a growing abyss in my life and in my heart. I saw a desert before me, barren and dry, and I sensed the Father inviting me to enter in. As I looked to the right and to the left, I thought, I can go back to what is comfortable and do things the way I've always done them. I could allow my relationships with my children to become unhealthy and try to manage their lives, or I could create something to run to, a party, or find a new social club to belong to. I thought about becoming more involved in church and wondered what I could offer. After all, church is a good thing. I wanted to escape the foreboding expanse of desolation that I saw before me. Yet the Lord prompted me to enter into this wasteland by reminding me of a verse he had shown me some 20 years earlier. Behold, I will allure you and draw you to the wilderness or desert, and there I will speak kindly to you. This is out of Hosea 2:14. I'm taking her back into the wilderness where we had our first date, and I'll court her. I'll give her bouquets of roses. I'll turn her heartbreak valley into acres of hope. That's the same verse from the Message. As this verse came to mind, I realized that this was an invitation from the Lord to enter into the mystery of loneliness, the wilderness, and in that place I would find him. Unfortunately, loneliness is often misunderstood. We perceive it as being something bad, something to avoid at all costs. When we experience the feeling of loneliness, we feel alone. Our feelings can escalate and may spiral into chronic loneliness and even depression. Therefore, we do all that we can to escape and avoid loneliness. During my extended season of loneliness, I have found great comfort in knowing that God places the lonely in families. Psalm 68:7. In other words, God knows that we are going to be lonely. He has made provision for loneliness called the family, his family. I learned to allow myself the pain of loneliness. Let it take me by the hand and escort me to God the Father. Sometimes it would mean reaching out to a friend and asking them to come visit, or going to sit in a coffee shop just to be around people. Sometimes my escort would lead me to a chair in my empty house to sit before the Lord and discover him as an oasis in my dry and barren land. A further study of the word lonely helped me to understand even more the blessedness of experiencing loneliness and not running from the feeling. In Greek, the word can mean a number of things: solitary, only, beloved. The words lonely and beloved are one and the same. So Psalm 68:7 could read, God places the beloved in families. This season, when you feel the ache of loneliness, remember, you are not alone. There are giants who have experienced what you feel. Jesus must have felt lonely many times. When he was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in his name, observing his signs, which he was doing. But Jesus, on his part, it says he was not entrusting himself to them. The crowds were enthralled with him. Many believed, yet in the midst of it all, he did not entrust himself to them. He held back, relying solely on the Father for affirmation and support. Paul experienced feeling utterly alone, and he allowed this to usher him into the presence of the Lord. It says in 2 Timothy, no one stood by me the first time I defended myself. All deserted me, but the Lord stayed with me and gave me strength. And we have the promise we can stand on, like Paul, of the Lord with us. In Matthew 28:20, he says, I will be with you always, to the end of the age. Don't be afraid. I will save you. I've called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Your troubles will not overwhelm you. When you pass through the fire, you will not be burned. The hard trials that come will not hurt you, for I am the Lord your God, because you are precious to me. And because I love you and give you honor, do not be afraid. I am with you. Isaiah 43:1-4. Our greatest escort out of loneliness is prayer. We can use this tool combined with the promises from the Word to comfort us, lead us, light the path for us, and discover the greatest treasure of all, Jesus. Here's a prayer and attributes of God to focus on that I wrote to pray while walking through the desert of loneliness. Father, over and over you tell me you are the God who is with me. You say you will never abandon or forsake me. Today, I'm depending on your word to be true for my life. I'm asking for the knowledge of you for today. choosing not to worry about tomorrow. I'm asking for my daily bread from your hand of mercy. Come and give me a drink from your cup of loving kindness. Jesus, you felt the pains of loneliness while you were here on earth. You were despised and forsaken of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and like one from whom men hide their face. You were struck and crushed by your own Father for my sake. Help me understand the full impact of this gift you offer, this companionship in my suffering that you extend to me. Help me know that I am not alone and that my God understands the ache of my lonely soul. When I feel like no one understands and I begin to slide down the slippery slope of negative self-talk, sinking deeper into the pit of despair, break in and remind me that I am not alone. Show me that you are with me. Lift me up in your strong right arm and hold me close. Lord, you are intimately acquainted with all of my ways, and you know the numbers of hairs on my head. You know my thoughts from afar, and you see me, and you search me. When I am in the dark place, show me the way out step by step, and grant me the grace to take those small steps to bring me out into the bright light once again. Jesus, you came to anoint me with gladness instead of sorrow, to wrap me in victory, joy, and praise instead of depression and sadness. Wrap me, Jesus, anoint me. Here I am, waiting and ready for all you have to offer. I want this great exchange for my life, and I give you my sorrow, depression, and sadness so that I can freely receive all that you desire to give. Oh God, forgive me when I have not been compassionate toward those who struggle with loneliness and depression. Forgive me when I have not taken a moment to help someone feel like they belong. In the midst of my despair, help me show compassion to others. Give me an awareness for those who may be struggling too. Let me be strong. Take courage and not be intimidated. Empower me to know that God, my God, is striding ahead of me. You're right there with me. You won't let me down. You won't leave me. Lord, even though my father, mother, friends, family have forsaken me, you have taken me in. Jesus, you have prepared a home for me, and you call me your friend, your brother, and a child of God. I have a family, a kingdom family. Thank you for the gift of loneliness. Let it escort me into a greater knowledge of who I am as the beloved. Just as my hunger leads me to fill my stomach with food, let the pain of loneliness lead me to fill my soul with the bread of life. Mom, I'm so proud of you for leaning in. And be sure to join me next week for our Flourish in Friendship series, where we're going to get practical. I'm going to help you define where you might be lacking in your friendship circles and talk about what's missing, what needs to be pruned or pursued. And I'd love for you to share some friendship love with me today by sharing this episode with a sweet sister. Leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify so that more women who are seeking authentic friendship can find mom-to-mom mentoring. Until next time, when you shine, you give others permission to shine too. So, Mama, let's rise and shine.